back to my kitchen. I'm Ashley, owner and executive chef of Southern with a French Twist. Our mission is to provide inspiration, services, and events to help you prioritize gathering around your own table with friends and family. On my channel, I like to share the recipes that I'm making when I have friends and family around my own table. This week, it's all about comfort food, and I'm sharing with you my family's chicken and dumpling recipe. Growing up, chicken and dumplings was one of the things that I always remember my Mimi making, and there's two things that I remember about it. It was delicious, and I always burnt the heck out of my mouth every time I ate it. Today, I'm sharing with you the recipe that's been passed down through generations in my own family, and it's always comforting this time of year. I really hope you make it to share with friends and family around your own table in these cold winter months. To get started, we're going to take a Dutch oven and fill it with a couple of ingredients. We're actually going to start making our own chicken stock as part of the base of the recipe. So with our Dutch oven, and I am using a large one because we are going to make a big old batch, it'll serve probably 6 to 8 people. We're going to place 4 bone-in, skin-on chicken breast halves. So there are usually 2 to a package for this unless you get a family pack and you can get more. And we're going to put it into the Dutch oven. Now I've preheated this Dutch oven a little bit so you'll hear a sizzle. You don't need to saute this chicken in the pot, but I just preheated it so the water will come to a boil faster. So we'll get to that part next. Once you put the chicken in, then we're going to add some aromatics. Like I mentioned, we are making a chicken stock for our chicken and dumplings. So we're going to add in celery, leaves and all. I just chopped the celery into about thirds. And then 1 onion quartered. 3 garlic cloves with the skin removed. And then a bunch of fresh thyme. Now we're going to go fill this pot up until the chicken is covered and there's maybe about an inch of room from the top. Next, we're going to bring this pot of water to a poaching temperature. So the water will come to a temperature of 160 to 180 degrees. That's the proper temperature whenever we're poaching something. Like I mentioned when I made my chicken pot pie recipe, when you poach the chicken, it just gently cooks it and leaves it nice and juicy rather than boiling it, and then it gets dry and it doesn't have a great texture whenever you're eating it. So we will cook this chicken until it comes to 160 degrees in that poaching liquid. So we'll just keep our eye on it to make sure that it doesn't get too hot. I usually have a thermometer close by and we'll just measure the temperature of the water from time to time to make sure it stays in that 160 to 180 range. This could take probably about 30 minutes. All right, the mixture is now kind of steaming, so I want to make sure that I take the temperature just to make sure that we're not past that poaching temperature. So to do that, I like to use a digital thermometer, but you can definitely use one that is not digital. And I just put it into the center of the pot and check the temperature. So this is at 190, which means it's getting closer to a simmer rather than a poach. So I'll just turn the heat down. It doesn't ruin it. We just want to make sure that it cooks a little bit slower at a little bit lower of a temperature so that chicken stays nice and juicy rather than getting too tough during the cooking process. So we'll just keep our eye on it until the temperature, until the chicken breast temperature reaches 160 degrees. Then we'll pull them out and move on to the next step. Our chicken is finished cooking and now it's time to take it out and put it into a large bowl, and then we'll skim the surface to remove the rest of the vegetables and any of the chicken scum that's come off because we're going to use the rest of the liquid as our stock to cook the rest of the meal. So we are just going to take some tongs and kind of fish out these chicken breasts. I'm going to put that little piece of thyme back in because we'll get that with the skimmer. And the chicken is going to cool a little bit because it is crazy hot right now, of course. And then we're going to take the chicken meat off of the bones. And I like to take the bones and put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them. And next time I'm making stock, I already have some chicken bones on hand, and then I can just throw them in the stock pot. So that's what we'll do with the remaining pieces of the chicken bone. And we'll let this cool for probably 10 minutes. It is really hot, especially the interior, so the exterior might feel cool enough to touch, but once you dig your fingers into that chicken meat, it will fry them. So we'll let that cool for about 10 minutes. I'm going to take a skimmer and another large bowl and remove the rest of the ingredients that's in the pot, and then we'll move on to our next step. I've shredded the poached chicken into a large bowl, and we're going to put it back into the cooking liquid in just a second. But first we're going to season it. So here I have some salt, black pepper, dried thyme, and garlic powder. And we're going to put that into the liquid that we poached the chicken in. This will just give it some nice flavoring. Right now it doesn't have any flavor since it's just liquid that was used to poach the chicken. So this will just add some really classic chicken, well-paired chicken flavors into our chicken and dumpling recipe. So I went ahead and put that in there, and then I'm actually going to go ahead and start to bring the water to a boil, and then we will put the chicken in. So actually we'll put the chicken in while it's coming to a boil. So now that the seasonings are in, let's give it a little bit of a stir. And while this is coming up to a boil, we'll go ahead and add in the chicken. While the pot is coming up to a boil, we'll go ahead and make our dumpling mixture. Now, my family likes to use the Bisquick all-purpose baking mix. You can make your own dumplings with your own flour, baking soda, baking powder ratio, but I'm gonna go with what my family does, and that's using the Bisquick baking mix already prepared for you at the store. So I have 3 cups of that, and we'll put it into a large bowl. And then I'm going to add 1 cup of whole milk. And I'm also going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this because I think that the dumplings need a little bit of flavor, especially salt in this recipe. So I will add about 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt and the same amount of pepper, so 1/4 of a teaspoon. And then we are going to take a spatula and just fold this together just until it combines. It will be a sticky batter, and that's totally fine. Now that this mixture is starting to simmer just a little bit, I can see a lot of bubbles coming up. We will go ahead and put our dumplings into the chicken mixture. So I have a small cookie scoop. This is the smallest one that they make. And I'm going to drop in 1 ball every so often into the mixture. And they will start to absorb the chicken stock, and they'll become nice and light and fluffy. So we will go ahead and put all of these in, and then we will let it simmer for 10 minutes without the lid on, and then we'll add the lid and cook it for another 10 minutes. Okay, you can see all of the dumplings are starting to absorb and they're nice and fluffy on top. We're going to continue to bring this to a boil, then we'll drop it to a simmer and let it cook for 10 minutes without the lid on, and then we'll put the lid on and cook it for another 10 minutes. Now it's time to put the lid on and let it cook for another 10 minutes. Let's give our chicken and dumplings a check because we have finished cooking them for 10 minutes uncovered, 10 minutes covered, and it's probably time for them to be finished now. So we will open up our pot and turn off the heat, and you can see all the dumplings are on the top and they're nice and fluffy. I am going to give it a little bit of a stir to break some of the dumplings up. Oh, they're nice and fluffy. You can see when you break them open that they're really nice and fluffy, and so the gravy of the chicken and dumplings is really gonna go really well with those nice and fluffy dumplings. So this was the hardest part when I was a kid, was to wait until this is cool enough to eat. I strongly recommend that you wait at least 20 minutes for this to cool down before you start spooning it out into individual bowls. It is so hot. The heat is off and it's still simmering. So because it's in a Dutch oven, which is cast iron, it's gonna retain a lot of that heat. So we're gonna let this cool for about 20 minutes and then we'll spoon it up and give it a taste test. The chicken and dumplings have cooled down and now it's time for a taste test. We'll take a big old scoop from the center. Make sure we get enough chicken and dumplings and then that gravy that's inside. So the dumplings actually thicken up that chicken stock and turn it into a gravy. This is so warm and comforting when it's cold outside. This is an all-time favorite winter recipe that my grandma used to make. All right, you can even see it's still hot. There's a lot of steam still coming off of the dish. You can also see the dumplings are nice and tender. And that's what you want, is that nice, fluffy, tender dumpling. So let's give it a taste test. I can't believe how hot it is after resting 20 minutes. It takes me back to my childhood. The chicken is nice and juicy because of the poaching. The dumplings are nice and fluffy, and that happens when you cook it without the cover on. They cook on the bottom, and then the steam will cook them when you have the cover on top. I love this. I feel like a kid at my Mimi's table all over again. Thanks for joining me today as I shared one of my family recipes, chicken and dumplings. I hope that you make this for friends and family this time of year around your own table. If you liked today's episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I post new content every week about the recipes that I'm making and sharing around my own table when friends and family come over. Until next time, cook great food in your kitchen, share with those that you love around your table, and we'll see you soon. For more information on the services Southern with a French Twist provides, visit our website, www.southernwithafrenchtwist.com.